Welcome to the Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night. This is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania. Amateur radio is a worldwide hobby that has many different aspects. Digital television is just one of the many modes and areas that are covered. Maybe you're interested in becoming involved in the DATV Experimenters Nights. You realise that you do not have to be a radio amateur or need any ATV equipment to participate anywhere in the world. Also participate in the night by coming up to the Queen's Domain club rooms. Yes, right on top of the Queen's Domain in the heritage-listed Coast Wireless Station. You never know, we might get you in front of the camera or behind doing one of the many roles during the night. We get underway with our program on a Wednesday night from 7:30 p.m. local time. We'll see you soon. This is VK7 OTC.
Zoom up there. That was a little nasty transition, wasn't it, Hayden? Anyway, this is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Night, and I've got Hayden VK7HH. Hello.
Hello.
From the very, very popular Ham Radio DX YouTube channel, Facebook page, Instagram page, Twitter account.
Not on TikTok, though.
Not on TikTok?
No.
Okay.
I draw the line somewhere.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. And the reason that Hayden's actually in the studio tonight is because last Friday night there was a fantastic video interview done with, Zoom interview, done with Dick Smith.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And really, really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, we reached out to Dick back in July. Well, I did.
Okay.
Back in July. And he replied back, he said, yeah, I'll come on the YouTube channel. He did say, though, can we do it in November? Because he was going to be releasing his autobiography. And...
Keep talking.
Yeah, and so we decided, yeah, sure. And then he reached out to the WIA, and he said to the WIA, can you put... He said, can you put something on your... I think he said newsletter.
Oh,
which
okay.
I think he meant the broadcast.
Yeah, okay.
About my book. And anyway, we had a chat and we said, look, let's do a combined thing. And that's what we did. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So that is the book, My Adventurous Life.
And we were just talking off air before we went to air. And I said to you, how are you enjoying the book? And you've had the exact same feelings as myself. I'm not a reader.
But I can't put it down.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I had to read it, but I really did enjoy it.
And there's a fantastic... In fact, the inside cover... This is... When you open it up, the inside cover... And I'm not going to be able to do this justice, but the inside cover is actually Dick Smith's adventures. So this is what he talks about in the book. These are all of his trips all over the world with helicopters, planes, his Earth Roamer,
yep.
Ford, and a whole lot of other things in the book. And there are two sections in the book also with some fantastic fantastic. And in fact, I'm about to get to them. Fantastic pictures, colour
Yes.
pictures of
Yes.
Ball's pyramid and etc. There's 2 sections which support what the story is.
And I mean,
What it's like.
I read it to, because I was interested in the electronics and the amateur radio side. But when you actually read about some of the things like the Ball's pyramid and what he did there, and how some of the challenges that he had, and also finding the plane in the middle of the desert, Australian
The
desert
Simpson
as well.
Desert,
Simpson
yep.
Desert,
Yeah.
when you read about those things, it's very good, and the way he describes it as well. I enjoyed it. I didn't expect it, that's for sure.
I didn't actually realise he was really involved with the scouting movement. That was the one thing I didn't know about. And the fact that he was a Queen Scout. So he went all the way through the scouting movement, all the way up to becoming a Queen Scout, which is the top of what you can do in scouting. And it involved rock climbing and all sorts of stuff, which comes into play later. And I love the way in the book that he describes what he learnt from scouting and then how he then applied that to the rest of his life, as well as his success secrets, which
Oh yes.
This is his business. I suppose his business success. But the whole thing about taking advice from good sources, copying what is successful, and surrounding himself with capable people,
and ask for advice.
Ask for advice. Well and
Yeah,
truly.
number one. Yeah, sorry, I missed that.
No, well and truly.
And it's interesting too, because he mentions about copying the success of others. He said not in a plagiarising kind of way.
No.
But looking at what they do and then thinking, how can I make this better? Because what he did was he started in electronic components because he walked in, I can't remember the store, but he walked into the store in Sydney and he said it took them half an hour to get one resistor and write out a tax docket, and he thought, I can do this better.
Correct.
And that's what he ended up doing.
And I remember the same experience in Adelaide. It was Gerard and Goodman, and those of our Adelaide members who are watching will know what I'm talking about. The older people will know what I'm talking about. You went into Gerard and Goodman, and they literally, if it was your one little component that you actually wanted, they had to write out a docket, literally handwrite a docket. You then went to the cashier and gave them your 15 cents or whatever it was.
And I like the story. He says in the book that when he started doing the electronics business, he used to do the same thing, and he would write out each transaction, and he would know how much he bought the product for, how much he sold it for, so he'd know what his profit margins were.
Yep.
And what he used to do is he used to speak to his accountant, and his accountant would say, Dick, you've got this much profit you've made, and it was heaps more than what he expected.
Correct.
But what was happening was the accountant was going by the amount of stock that was unsold at that point. And what he was doing is painstakingly doing all this stuff, and he actually knew, I think, like 5 months before his accountant did, of how much money he'd actually made.
Correct.
And
well before.
And it kept him disciplined, he said, in what he would spend compared to what he would sell for.
And that went into future businesses. So
Yeah.
it was well worth a read.
And I will say one thing about Dick is what you see is actually what you get, because when he popped in beforehand, the first thing he says, hello, Hayden, Dick Smith here, and I know who you are, but it's just that, it's a similar thing that you do with someone you've just met for the first time. So
I'm just gonna put on the screen that symbol.
Oh yes. Oh, I've got a story about that too. So before we started, I said to Dick, look, before the stream, I said, I've had a bit of a search, and I believe that I don't know who owns the IP for the famous Dickhead logo.
Yeah.
Can I use it in the top right hand corner? And he's like, yeah, go for it. Don't worry about it. Okay.
I love it.
I don't think anyone owns it anymore, but ultimately, probably, I guess Dick has some sort of hand in it, I would imagine.
Well, I hope he does. It's his face. But
it was owned by Woolworths. So.
Well and truly, and it goes into that on the in the book, well and truly. What that is appearing on is this is actually the last catalogue that I kept whole, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. So the 2004-2005 catalogue, it is a decent catalogue, and in fact he goes into the fact that one of the key things he learnt from Lafayette in America was the mail order catalogue, the catalogues, and he became. In fact, he makes a comment when he first opened in the book. He makes the comment that they were actually making more money off selling the catalogues than they were off the components that were in the catalogues.
Yeah. He got that many mail orders for catalogues and things sent back in that he used to do promotional things. I think another one was an insert that he put in Electronics Australia and things. Well, he got more mail-ins for that than he did people coming into the store.
Yeah.
And I think they bumped up the price of the catalogues because they were selling so many.
Well, truly. And mail order. That was the other thing. Was people could look in the catalogue, order it on. Or I was going to say order it online. Sorry, no. Before that time,
mail order it.
Mail order it, and it was then packaged up and sent to them. So
I don't think you've gotten to the bit about where he speaks about Australian Geographic, but he did something similar with that as well, where he had a set number of subscribers that he thought that he would get to, and he exceeded that. And then what happened was he was not happy with the fact that news agents could get Australian Geographic and then just turf them when they were old, and it was a lot of waste. So then he challenged Australian Geographic to keep subscribers based upon you actually have to have a subscription for it. So then that way it eliminates a lot of the waste, and
well and truly,
he managed to do it. So
always thinking outside the box. So in a Dick Smith catalogue, there was always a section at the. Actually, it moved around a little bit because there used to be a section it was at the beginning in the early catalogues, and then it went to the middle, and then it ended up at the end. I remember that, but it was a data section. And in this catalogue, this is a very cut down data section that is at the very end. It's got things like the frequencies, the UHF, the CB frequencies. It's got the common circuits. It's got TTL and CMOS ICs. It's got standard the technical specs for standard components. It's got resistor color code, etc. But in the earlier catalogues, and I managed to dig these out, this would be back in, I reckon, the late 80s, early 90s. This is the thickest data section that I've actually got. But I used to rip the data section out the back and staple that together and keep that, and then turf the catalogue, because the catalogue was old. You get the next one, you get the next year's. And it is exactly the same. Lots more detail in this one because this is actually quite thick. Cable, copper wire, winding details, diodes, transistors, leads, common diodes and transistors, LEDs, ICs, etc., etc., etc. So I actually was able to find two of those. One that was much thicker, so I think it's quite a bit older, and then one that was I think a little bit later in the piece. So because there's not that much in here.
But it was good because everything was all in one spot.
Correct.
The basic stuff was all in one spot, and you didn't have to go searching for it. It was really handy.
No, well and truly. And it was everything together. That was the thing.
Yeah.
You didn't need your transistor data book. You didn't need your IC data book. You didn't need anything. It was the common ones. And these were the components that they were actually selling. So you could then buy them at Dick Smith as well. So, I was quite chuffed when I found those. That was.
And I remembered this catalogue because that was the one I had as well. But then I lost it.
and it's a bit of a telltale thing in here because this is when Woolworths bought up Tandy. When Radio Shack stopped because Radio Shack in Australia was Tandy, was branded as Tandy, and he makes the comment in the book. He says, and quite ironically, Woolworths ended up buying out Tandy, and either shutting down the stores or expanding them into being Dick Smith Electronics stores.
He also talks about the so-called powerhouses as well. He wasn't a fan of the Dick Smith powerhouses, and he did mention, and he mentioned on the stream and in the book, that he said to Woolworths, or he mentioned at the time, don't do any more than 100 stores because that's all you need, that's all the demand that there is. Woolworths went and did 350 stores across Australia and New Zealand. So,
and guess what happened?
Yeah.
They probably ended up closing.
And he talks about the greatest share market heist of all time with Anchorage and all of that. So he goes into a lot of detail. He doesn't mince his words with this, that's for sure.
No, certainly not. Just a fantastic read. Really, really good read. Now, the other thing I bought in, which I managed to find, was... This is one of Dick Smith's kits. It was a kit. This is a 2 meter FM transceiver. It doesn't have CTCSS in it, although I could put CTCSS in there because I've got the IC, the little board. I made up a PCB for the CTCSS. But it had it was very easy to operate. It had a thumb wheel to set the frequency. You had a little anti-repeater button, so you could go to the flip side of the repeater. So it took off the 600 kcs. It was, the switch in the middle was simplex, was minus 600 or plus 600 kilohertz for the repeater frequency, and then there was a volume and a squelch and a little power signal meter. Came with the microphone. This one has had the speaker taken out of it for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why, but anyway. But I had this in a couple of vehicles when I built it. I have to say that I think this one, from memory, there's a little oscillator which is in a little PCB surround. One of the things you had to do was, once you set the frequency, that key frequency, you then filled it with wax to give
so it wouldn't drift.
Give it some stability.
Yeah.
I never filled it with wax, and I have to say, when you jumped into a hot car, the frequency was probably a little bit off. You may or may not have been able to have accessed the repeater. So, especially in Adelaide, when you're at 40-degree day in a hot car, that was not. But this was the DSE Commander, and there was the DSE Explorer, and I built it in Explorer. The Explorer was the 70 centimetre version of this. This was the 2 metre version. I did build one of those.
What vintage would that be?
Oh, this is 80s. This is well and truly 80s, and it's a kit. Now, the kit we're talking about, and what I'll do here. Just let me grab I wasn't going to do this, but I will. Phillips head screwdriver, which is why
We might find the speaker that's following.
we may find the speaker. You never know. You never know. But what I was going to indicate here was this was not a kit for the faint-hearted. This was definitely your advanced kit building, and it did take. Both my father, who was VK7TW, and I both bought these kits. He bought the 70 centimetre kit as well, but I only bought the 2 metre kit. But I ended up building the 70 centimetre kit for him. Those screws are so long. So come on.
Oh, there's the speaker.
There's the speaker. Oh, it's a bigger speaker.
Upgrade.
It's a big.
And it's taped straight onto the plastic.
It's duct taped onto the plastic.
That just adds bass.
Yeah. This is a bit like the car radio installation that he
Yes.
talks about in the book.
Yes.
But I'll just show this because this is definitely not a kit for the faint-hearted. All of these IF transformers were pre-wound, so that was a benefit. All of these coupling transformers, but if I zoom in,
Yeah, that would have been fun winding them.
Oh yeah, nah.
A lot of failed kits if they had done that.
And the thing was, Dick Smith Electronics had a kit building section where there was the famous. It's a bit like the. I think there's the J car equivalent, where there's a little piece of paper that they put in all their kits, which says, if you put this together and it fails to work, then you can send it to us for a small charge, and we will troubleshoot it for you. And actually, there you go. There's my old call sign. That was my old call sign when I came to Tasmania. It went from ZJV to ZTW. Before I got my...
There it is again, down the bottom left.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Oh,
You've marked it all over the PCB.
So yeah, it wasn't a kit for the faint-hearted, but if you followed the instructions, it certainly worked. The 70 centimetre one, I have to say, the tolerances were much tighter, and so yeah, the 70 centimetre one, I actually ended up having to troubleshoot for Dad the 70 centimetre one, but. That's the Dick Smith Commander. Not an insignificant kit to actually put together from a manufacturing point of view, and that I would have to say is probably their. I'll go out on a limb here and say that's probably one of their more complex kits. Yeah, and the thing about it was, and the reason why Dad and I bought these was. At the time, a 2 metre FM rig was worth a lot of money. And the kit was worth, I don't know what it was actually worth. Actually, it's probably, it'd be in one of those earlier catalogues that I've since ditched, unfortunately. But you could buy this for probably, I don't know, $80 or something like that, whereas a working transceiver would have been sort of, I don't know, $250 or something along those lines.
And then you would have learnt a bit building it too.
Well and truly.
You would have learnt the ability to be patient and frustrations as well, and you would have learned a lot.
Yeah. Winding.
It looks very good. Like it looks like a bought one.
Oh, correct. Except this should be full of wax. This area here should actually be full of wax. But anyway, but anyway,
Does it still work?
Yes, it does. Yeah, well and truly. And in fact, we can plug it in after this and actually see it actually working.
Yeah.
It hasn't got CTCSS, so but we can use it on simplex and do a bit of. But anyway, roving on. But that's the DSE Commander. Still well and truly working. And that was a Dick Smith kit. And yeah, just fantastic. So just to finish off, what I've got for our viewers' viewing pleasure, hopefully this is going to work. Yes. Okay. So now what we're looking at here is Rex and I driving out to a property called Gundaroo. In 2010, this is the Wireless Institute Centenary, was held in Canberra. VK1WIA, which is the broadcast call sign, was held in Canberra, and Dick Smith was the keynote speaker. And in fact, I've got an audio recording of his speech that I didn't realise I took at the time. He then invited us out on the Sunday to his property called Gundaroo, which is, I don't know, half an hour out of Canberra into New South Wales. We're just crossing the New South Wales border here. and to his property called Gundaroo, which is where he lives. Beautiful property. Anyway, I'll take you through as we go through this. Now, he has a complete airport, an airstrip on the property. I don't know in aviation terms how long the airstrip is, but anyway, it's a full airstrip. He has a flying club, which it's a made up flying club, but and you'll see in a minute how he's made it up. But it's a complete flying club, and he also has some historic aircraft that are there. This is a Westland, I think. There is a whole lot of memorabilia at this flying club. There's an extra motor for the Westland. That's a Gypsy Major Aero. Sorry, that's upside down. The de Havilland Aircraft Company, Middlesex, England. All of the clocks and the clocking in and clocking out. That's the motor in the Westland. Forget that was me. Now, the Bowley Flying Club. Now, the interesting thing here is the club presidents are listed. In 1922 was Bert Hinkler, was 1927 was Keith Anderson, 1930 Sir Charles Kingford Smith. Now, this is all made up. This is just Nancy Bird, Sid Marshall, Major John Bigglesworth, and you'll see the relevance of that in a minute. Sir Hubert Wilkins, Bedford Osborne, Les Brain, etc., etc., etc. So he has basically made up this flying club from scratch and made it look very official, very, very official. There's busts of flyers. Well, there's the King and Queen. That's the Queen Mum. So when she was Queen, historic pictures. That's one of his awards actually, for first solo circumnavigation of the world, that was awarded to him in a helicopter. There's piano. Hubert Wilkins, Antarctic and Arctic adventurer who flew over there. Now, the interesting thing he talks about in the book, going into his uncle Harold, who was killed in World War II, going into his room, and he was an amateur radio operator. Mm-hmm. And that was one of his biggest influences around amateur radio. Now, a lot of the equipment, I understand, from Uncle Harold's room has ended up in here, as well as a whole lot of other equipment. This is the radio room in the Flying Club. So that's a number 22 set, I think, above, and a few other bits and pieces. Little telephone exchange, some other receivers, and this is all like fabricated. It's just phenomenal. Bits and pieces, yeah. They were all the radios. Now as we're walking around, he's describing all of this stuff, and just keep going. Somebody's back of the head. There he is, and he's describing.
Some great photos of Dick in here.
He's got. Now, as we're walking around and doing all of this, 4 army helicopters fly in. And these 4, and Dick just absolutely lit up. And inside the Flying Club is this old telephone. Now, this old telephone is connected to an aviation frequency VHF radio. And he starts talking to the helicopters. And he's describing the helicopters, the type of helicopters they are, the whole bit. He just became so animated, and here this is them flying in, and these 4 helicopters flew in because basically, they were flying to Canberra, and Canberra was in fog, and they couldn't actually land in Canberra. So they said, well, hey, there's an airfield here.
We'll land at
Let's
this
just
place.
land here.
Which is exactly what he does all the time. He'll land wherever he, can land a helicopter, basically.
And this is him describing the helicopters, how easy they are to fly, and all of this sort of stuff. It's just amazing, and just started on this whole spiel of and we invited them. So these four helicopter crews, we invited them because there was a barbecue after this that he put on. They all came to the barbecue, and you'll see a shot later where I got a shot, and there's the four helicopters parked with all the other cars, down the runway.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah.
Now, that's where the Westland plane is. It's Biggles and Co. So there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek stuff going on here. Now, this shed. This is called Dick's Toy Shed. And there's a hang glider. There's a light plane. That's Peter VK3MV. Now here's Dick standing here. That was the plane that he went around the world in. Single engine something with the long range tank on the bottom. Mm-hmm. So he's talking about. Oh, that's his. That's when he came back after his round the world. That was one of the signs. And here's him describing the round the world helicopter trip. That box there is the beacon that was on the boat.
Oh, yes.
That he talks about. All made with Dick Smith electronics components.
The Dick Myth.
The Dick Myth.
Yeah.
Well and truly.
Yep.
And he holds this thing up, along with the antenna that they put
Strung over the crane.
Well and truly. So here now, this is the CO from the helicopters. So Dick got him to say hello, and they didn't realise it was Dick Smith's property. So they got
a surprise,
and they were blown away with all these stories. So that was just phenomenal.
He would have loved that too. Them just rocking up.
Hey. Now this is Michael Owen, the late Michael Owen, who was doing the thank you to Dick. Now that's his plane. Now the reason I took that photo is they are all of the locations down the side of the plane that they actually visited in the plane. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's when he took his family, everybody in there. Now here he is. This is all the four aircraft crews and Dick in the middle. So and they were just blown away. Like, you have a look at some of these guys. I reckon, like, they're only fresh out of school and recruit school. It's just So they had a fantastic time. This is bits and pieces around. Now there is a little train. He's got his train set. This is a train set that you can actually ride in.
Yeah.
He had a little diesel locomotive that he takes you around the property. So I went on a little bit of a trip around the property. That's the Homestead station. So that's where the house is in the background there. Now here we go. Now I think there's a better shot of this. Yeah, Dick's Toy Shed. So that's it. It's a hangar. It's huge. Biggles and Co. I think that might be just about. Oh, and that's where we had the barbecue, just next to the flying club. There's the four helicopters, and I think that might be the last. Yeah, that's as we're driving out. And Rex took me to the airport to drop me off. We drove to Sydney, and then he dropped me off at the airport. And we came home. So anyway, that's Canberra. So we don't want to see that.
No.
But anyway, but that was the WIA Centenary AGM back in 2010.
And we did speak to him afterwards, and he said that when he gets in his Cessna Caravan plane, he intends to get on 20 metres, and we're going to try and make an event of it. So
fantastic.
We're just waiting to hear from him when that's going to happen. Obviously, with restrictions and everything, it won't be until they're all gone. But he wants to get back on the air.
Fantastic.
On his frequency. 14.146. My frequency. I'll get on my frequency.
And he makes the comment that people can't believe that they're talking to Dick Smith.
Yeah.
It just sort of, I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just really, really good. So that's our Dick Smith again. This is actually currently on special at Dimmicks. Just point that out. And a fantastic read. So well worth. Do yourself a favour, as Molly Meldrum says.
It's not a CD. Although you can get the audio.
The audio book?
Yes.
Oh,
and
well, there you go.
I'm not 100% sure, but Dick may read it.
Oh, okay.
Or has audio portions.
Okay.
I think. Don't quote me on it.
And I found it very funny because the quote on the front cover is from Paul Hogan, which is part Bear Grylls, part Bill Gates, but 100% Aussie larrikin. Dick is a great innovator, philanthropist and adventurer who, in my eyes, can do no wrong.
Just ask of the media, though. I'm not sure they'd agree, but...
Oh, well. No.
Yeah.
But, fantastic. Do yourself a favour. So, we'll just do a little bit of a reset of the studio, because I've got some other bits and pieces for tonight. And thank you, Hayden.
No worries. Let me know before you go into that, because I do have a quick update on it.
Okay, all right, cool. No problems. All right, we'll just do a quick reset of the studio, and then we'll be right back. Cool. Okay, we're back. Now, what I've got is a few bits and pieces to finish off the night, and then some reminders. Now, our LED light panels that we installed in the studio back probably about a year or so ago, we had one panel that actually had failed, so I actually took it apart on the weekend to find out whether I could work out why it failed to start with, and whether we could resurrect it back into a spare panel. Now, as it turned out, we couldn't. However, what I found out was how these panels actually work, and I was a little bit surprised. The very first thing that I realised was when I took them apart, and this is not unusual. You'll notice this is the lens, and this is what they call a lenticular lens. And you can see if I hold that up, you get no image of me at all, although you do get a wide image of me, which is indicative of what's going on here in the lens. There are a whole lot of lines that go this way along the lens, and there's a reason for that. That you can hear that. Now those lenses are little arches, tiny little arches, all polished up. And what happens is, if you inject light into this panel, there is on this side, there is a diffuser type reflector, so it's a white plastic panel, and so the light goes in, is bounced off of that white reflective panel on the back of here, through the panel, and when it gets to these lenticular lenses, the light is spread out, because the lens is like this, is spread out in almost 180 degrees of arc. And so what this panel basically does is, instead of, if the light was just going in and it was reflected, it would be quite flat and potentially quite directive. Whereas with the lenticular lenses, what it's doing is that light that goes into the panel is then spread in 180 degrees by these panels. And that's why when you hold this up, there is obviously something optical going on here. You can see, and it's a dead giveaway, because you can see that the image is split into a horizontal and a vertical plane. So that's the interesting lens that goes into these panels, and then there is a reflective white white cover that also goes on there, and there's a protective clear plastic one on the top of here. But the actual LED strip, there is a little circuit that has 5 LEDs per block. The LEDs, and I'll see whether I can do this. I'm not quite sure whether this is going to work or not. Let me just zoom in here. So you can see the strip here. There is a white one, which is the very yellow ones, and then there is a not quite so yellow one, which is the cream coloured. So it's white and cream, and the way that they change the colour temperature is there is a circuit that mixes a certain amount of the white and a certain amount of the cream together to give you the colour temperature. So very light, warm, or very warm colour is based on the mixing of either of these circuits. Whoops. Let me go back a step. There we go. That's a bit more focused. And this strip is, I don't know, it's 1.2 meters long or whatever it is. It's just over a meter long, and it's these are all mounted onto a little PCB which has got the circuit on it, and then there are 3 wires that come out here, which is the blocks of 5 all put together. And the cream circuit and the white circuit, and it's the mixing of those which goes on in the constant current power supply, where you can set the color temperature using a little switch. So you can see some of these. The interesting thing is, you can see on here, I've gone through, and if you put a continuity tester on across some of these LEDs, you'll see that 5 of them light up using the voltage of the continuity tester, and you can see some of these I've actually I've knocked the lens off them because they are not working, and there are a couple of blocks throughout this that are not working, and that's why once you get one of those LEDs, because all of those LEDs are in series. Once you get one LED that's faulty, then the whole strip stops for that white or that cream, and there are both white and cream issues on this particular strip. I don't know what caused them, but it meant that this is certainly not repairable, or it's an awful lot of work to repair them if you can get hold of the white and the cream LEDs. So that's why this is I pulled this off, and there was a crack in here anyway, so I cracked it all the way through. But the LEDs go on this side. They point into this plastic. Very carefully aligned, they point into the plastic, and then their lenticular lenses spread that light out in a 180 degree direction. So that's your modern LED lighting panel. It is only one strip of LEDs and some interesting optics to go with it to get you your light across uniformly across the whole panel. So anyway, that's modern LED lighting. Now the other thing that arrived in the post during the week is, and I'm not going to go into this in a huge amount of detail. What I'll do is go into this in a future session. But what arrived in the mail is my latest NANOVNA. And this is the NANOVNA-F. It is a larger screen, much larger screen. You can see that's my finger. Much larger screen. This particular version goes to 3 gigahertz. The dynamic range goes down when it goes up to 3 gigahertz, but it's still it's not a bad little unit. If I switch it on, and you can see with the bigger screen, you've got half a chance of actually reading the screen. It is exactly the same sort of software. There's a few other features that they've built into the software. It is all selected via the touch screen. It is still the S11 and S21 ports, exactly the same. And there's a very handy little diagram on the back of the unit, which shows you what the S11 and 12 and the S21 and 22 ports actually do when you're using them in circuit. So that's really handy, and it comes with comes in a very nice little case. It comes with the calibration, the short, the open, and the terminator, and then a couple of SMA connectors. The rest of these are my connectors that I put into the case, so that we've and that's the little unfortunately my little crystal testing jig that I made up last week. Because this is the bigger VNA, the alignment of those connectors isn't quite right anymore. But anyway, them's the breaks. And I've just put another range of connectors in there that I use. So next week, not next week, the week after that, I'll go into in a little more detail the upmarket version of the NANOVNA. So the NANOVNA-F version 2. So not that much more expensive than a NANOVNA. So worth looking at. And I'll put the details of where I purchased this from, and there's the documentation QR code. Where I purchased this from, it still does come out of China, a organisation called sysjoint.com. So that's the NANOVNA-F version 2. Now, DUBUS magazine. During the week, the latest copy of DUBUS magazine arrived in the mailbox. For those who don't know, DUBUS magazine is if you're into VHF and above and microwave, VHF, UHF and microwave experimentation, DUBUS magazine is certainly probably the exemplar in amateur radio microwave magazines. In this particular version, there are two. I was just going to point out two articles. I won't go through the whole thing, but there are two articles which are really interesting. And the first one is on the front page. This article is about deep reflector prime focus feeds for space communication. So these are prime focus dishes which have a deep, are actually deep. They have now what's the ratio? The depth to the diameter, I think it is. I'll correct that if that's not right. But actually creating a feed that will cover the whole dish. But you can see the distance from the back of the dish to this feed is not very far. Not usually these feeds are way out here, so that they get full coverage and full coverage of the actual dish, with no overflow from the cold surroundings. So what they've done is come up with a feed which enables you to, on a quite shallow, deep dish, actually put a feed on there that works for space communications. So this is Earth, Moon, Earth, or satellites, or the like. So very interesting article. And for those who don't know, DUBUS magazine is a bilingual magazine. All the articles are in both English, and then they are in German. So if you speak German, you can see the German version of it is without the diagrams, obviously. So it's a shorter version, but it's all in German. Now the other article that I just wanted to flip to was Paul Wade, who is W1GHZ, who visited Tasmania a few years ago. I actually had the privilege of meeting him at up at Rex's place. Has a fascinating article about visualising microwaves. Now, for the older amateurs in our midst, they would hopefully remember liquor lines, where you could. They were found in labs mostly, but there was a device that you could feed a radio frequency into, and it was quite a long device. And what you could do was put an indicator and move the indicator along this device, and you could see the nodes and antinodes created by the standing waves on this device. You could actually visualize where there was a node and an antinode. The meter would go up, or the lamp would go bright or dull or whatever. And so what Paul Wade's done is come up with a very similar arrangement, open coaxial line made from hobby tubing, and then a little detector board from, I think it's from China, and a little probe for the open coaxial line. And what he's been able to do, and you can see here, he moves up and down this open coaxial line with the detector, and that goes off to a meter, and you can visualize the nodes and antinodes in microwave frequencies along this open coaxial line. So absolutely fascinating article, and it enables you to visualize. He also uses, there's another thing here, which is a mesh waveguide. Here's a mesh waveguide, copper mesh waveguide suitable for probing. So he makes up a little probe, and you can run it along the waveguide and actually see where the peaks and the troughs are of the microwave energy within the waveguide. So absolutely fascinating. And Paul Wade's a wonderful one for coming up with equipment, repurposing equipment. I remember there was a satellite LNA project where you would repurpose a satellite LNA to give you a receiver up at the satellite microwave frequencies in repurposing it for amateur frequencies. So great little article. So we'll feature a few of the other things in here in future DATV nights. But DUBUS magazine, there are quite a few people in the microwave community, in the that community that usually goes to Gibbs Tech in July. Unfortunately, it didn't happen this year, so hopefully, fingers crossed for next year. But the Gibbs Tech community, the microwave community, lots of people who subscribe to this particular magazine, and Rex and others submit articles to DUBUS quite often. So I know when we were doing the optical features, we had a series of 4 articles in DUBUS magazine around the optical transmissions that we were doing. So and it goes into a huge amount of detail, gives you engineering drawings, gives you the mathematics behind it, all sorts of things. So well worth it if you're into microwave experimentation. Now, if Alan VK7KAJ is out in the club rooms, can Alan VK7KAJ make his way into the studio, please? I just want to do a bit of a 3.4 gig update. So let me we'll go to our test pattern and we'll be right back.
Gee, it's hot in here.
It is. I'll leave the door open, so there might be a bit of noise from next door. But
What have I done?
3.4 gigs with a big antenna.
Yes.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Justin.
VK7KAJ, a regular contributor.
Lately,
Definitely. And 3.4 gigs, you have upgraded.
I have. I went from your little 600 by 400 millimeter grid pack to the supposedly 900 by 600 grid pack reflector. It's actually 1000 by 600.
Okay.
If you measure it.
So it may actually be slightly higher gain than what they're quoting.
Yes.
Okay.
But I doubt it.
And the effect was?
Well, it appears to be better.
Definitely.
The things we noticed was that the azimuth is fairly sharp.
Correct.
In fact, the whole dish is fairly sharp because it's 6.5 degrees in one plane and 9.5 in the
other
narrower plane.
Yep.
And the sharpest one is in the elevation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And in fact, that's where we got. Well, I certainly got the most gain, the most improved performance from.
Yes, because you're closer to the mountains, so your angle will be
higher.
Whereas I'm only just above horizontal, a couple of degrees, but there's a hill about 2 degrees up from horizontal that I have to aim through just over the top of to get to the mountains.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were getting, I was getting 5.9 plus 10.
Yes, and I was getting 5.9 plus 10 also. And considering that we were using the same antenna, the same transverter, and I won't admit to the same transceiver, would it be logical if we were the same in both directions?
Correct.
If you get what I mean.
Correct.
Yes. So.
But definite improvement with playing with the elevation. So that was my big learning out of Sunday.
Yeah, well, I was only doing it by bending the mast that it was mounted on.
Okay.
In fact,
we might have photos.
I have a photo. There's another funny story with this too, which you know.
Oh, okay. Cool. Ooh, yes, nice photos.
Now, where
Nice photos.
does that come up? Let's hope it doesn't go dark. It will.
Zoom in.
So that's the 3.4, well, the big grid pack, the 27 dBi one, pointed at the mountain, and above it is the 1296 Yagi.
I see what you mean about the solar panels.
Yes, and those solar panels. Now, the interesting thing there is that the XYL had a friend into the... This is taken out my kitchen window, by the way. This is the view out the kitchen window.
Right.
And she had a friend up, and they were in the kitchen looking out the window complaining about the solar panels, and they totally didn't mention anything else in view.
Good work.
So, yeah. So, yes.
Oh, that's
So-
good.
And that mast is only a bit over 25mm, I think, aluminium, and the weight hanging off the front from that grid pack is bending it in that direction.
Okay. Yeah.
Towards the left in that screen, so I was just pulling it back a bit to
Okay.
aim it up, but I couldn't bend it back too far because the reflector on the 1296 Yagi was hitting the spouting.
Ah,
So
okay.
that was the limiting factor
Okay.
to how far I could bend it.
Hey.
And
Hey. It's
yeah.
good.
So yeah, that was only a couple of degrees, if that, and the signal went up. Yeah, probably 5 dB or so on that.
Well, my change in elevation was from a brick on its flat to a brick on its edge.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I couldn't alter the azimuth because that's clamped to the mast.
Right.
I really, in these investigative days, we really need to be able to...
Oh.
There was something else interesting there too, but
Okay.
yeah, we need to be able to move it around a bit so we can investigate where and what we're getting our signals off.
Mm.
So, but
Oh, truly.
yeah, it's definitely an improvement. I have got another spot to mount it, which is above there. There's one of those TV barge board mounts or
Okay.
fascia mounts that
Yep.
I can put it on. But when I know where to point it and get the angles correct, and a few other things, it'll need a bit of coax to feed it. But
Okay.
that won't be too bad, I
So
think.
you've just got the transmitter on the back of that?
Yeah, I just put the transverter right on the back, with about a foot of RG142 coax.
Okay.
So and that's got a loss of about half a dB, I think, at that frequency.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well, fantastic and huge improvement. So
yeah.
just
It'll be interesting when the others come on.
well and truly.
Yeah.
Which hopefully that's a good reminder. Great segue. Very good, Al. You got
No.
something else?
That's what the little one looked like.
Oh, okay. No, we'll show that.
That was a smaller grid pack, which wasn't quite as noticeable. Actually, I think the bigger one is less noticeable. It could be the colour.
Hang on, which way do I go?
Yeah, keep going. Just go with quite a few. Yeah, there. It doesn't look like it there, but it's more a...
You actually get more of a silhouette with
Yeah.
the little one.
Yeah, it's more of a paler colour, that.
Which
What-
it is, because it's
Yeah.
powder coated.
Yeah, it's beige or something,
Yeah.
whereas the little one is weathered something, whatever metal it is.
Crap metal.
Yeah. So anyway, that's been there for several years and nobody's complained yet.
I love it.
That's way behind.
Yeah, no, it is. That's
Yeah.
the stream.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we're, but that's a great segue because next, this weekend, this coming weekend,
Oh, yeah.
is the VHF UHF Field Day, Spring Field Day. So we're just getting it in the last weekend of spring. So there, I know that Richard and Murray are heading up to the Moontain, the mountain.
Right, okay, so I'm pointed in the right direction.
Well and truly.
Good.
So if you want 2 and 70 or above contacts or 6 metre contacts during the weekend.
23 centimetres and 9 centimetres.
And
I
three,
think
3
3
centimetres.
centimetres for those. Oh, and I think there's 13 in there as well.
Oh, yes. Well, there is.
I'm not, but
Hayden
a few people are.
and Richard.
Yeah.
Well and truly, 2.4 gigs.
Mm.
So plenty of opportunities. So I will actually be operating as a home station. I won't actually be going portable because we've got a assessment day on Saturday,
Oh, okay.
which has been set a long time ago. Which I now know that I need to look at the VHF UHF field day schedule before we set those.
That's many months in advance. Yeah, okay.
So that's the 27th to 28th. It goes from 11 UTC, but please check that to 11 UTC in the next day.
Sunday, yep.
It is a distance-based, distance and frequency-based. That's how the scoring is worked out. So you will need to know your Maidenhead, your grid square, which there are wonderful. There's an app for that.
And so if you have the right sort of transceiver, it even shows you on.
Oh,
on
okay. With a GPS installed.
Yes. Yeah, one of those
okay.
ones.
Okay. Very nice.
So I believe.
Excellent. See, it just these days, it's everything in a box.
Yeah, and if I do it to 10, I think, places, I've got to be careful which way I'm leaning in my chair.
Oh, okay. Yes. There was actually a wonderful talk about that and exactly that at Gibbs Tech one year, which had everybody in stitches.
Yes. Yeah, you've been to my shack. Where I am is JQ, the last set of letters,
yep.
QE 36 PX 88 JQ. If I lean back too far, I go to IQ.
Right.
Which, yeah, I just realised what that meant. Low IQ. Yeah.
I love it. So, VHF UHF field day on the weekend. Now, just some quick reminders. Next week, Wednesday, the 1st of December, 7:30 p.m. up here, is Paul Daniels, VK0PD, who is giving us a talk on his time at Casey Station with probably some hecklers in the background. Our Christmas activity happens on the 15th of December, which is both an afternoon for the WAGs and an evening barbecue for the ATV night.
Gee, I'm going to be barbecued out, going to both.
Correct. Or you could have snags in the sort of lunchtime and then have chops in the...
No, I don't
night.
snag.
Oh, okay. Righto. The open day. Now, we have set this date. It is the 30th of January. 2022, and all the details, actually all the details are now on the Facebook page, on the Facebook event, so have a look at that. And the AGM, Reast AGM is on the 6th of February 2022, so...
Well, that's 3 months away.
Yeah.
I can't plan that far ahead. In COVID times.
Oh dear. Well, and we're all bracing ourselves for the 15th, which is actually our Christmas barbecue.
Yes.
So that's very good.
Yeah.
So if we suddenly have an influx of people for the Wednesday afternoon group and the evening barbecue who are all from interstate, we'll know why.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our show for tonight. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
And hope to make some contacts with you on the weekend.
Yep.
So good stuff. All right. Now we've got a few videos tonight for our RF viewers, which are both Dick Smith related videos. The very first one is a reprise of Hayden's VK7HH's Ham Radio DX interview with Dick. And then if we get to it, and we may not get to it, given the time, we have the video that Dick Smith made of his solo flight in a helicopter around the world in 1983. So So, fantastic little video that I found online, so we might get to that. Anyway, this is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV night, and we will catch you in a fortnight's time. This is VK7TW
And VK7KAJ.
73.